Most men don't actually lack communication skills. They lack the courage to clarify what they already know. And when courage is missing, confusion becomes convenient. You call it mixed signals, but deep down, you knew it wasn't mutual. God doesn't send confusion, but He will allow exposure. And when that exposure comes, it's not punishment. It's protection. Don't mistake good communication for godly alignment. Clarity can make you comfortable, but alignment will make you. Men say, I just need a woman who communicates simply and clearly. No, you need a woman who aligns clearly. Because marriage isn't about who talks best. It's about who walks in the same direction. Communication alone doesn't guarantee unity. You can understand each other perfectly and still move in opposite directions. Because what keeps two people together isn't clarity of speech. It's clarity of spirit. Clarity can make a person uncomfortable because it exposes what they were hiding. That's not miscommunication. That's misalignment. Amos 3 verse 3 says, can two walk together unless they are agreed? Agreement sounds good on paper, but alignment is proven in posture. Don't mistake good communication for godly alignment. Clarity can make you comfortable, but alignment will make you accountable. Clarity and character. Most people don't actually suffer from communication issues. They suffer from courage issues. They know what's true, but they don't want to face what the truth will cost them. Truth requires confrontation, not with people, but with yourself. Self-confrontation exposes where we've been performing and pretending peace instead of protecting purpose. Communication becomes camouflage when we use it to delay conviction. That's why some relationships seem healthy until accountability enters the room. You never truly know what's in someone until clarity tests their comfort. Confusion is convenient. Confusion is the fog that lets indecision feel safe. It's that dimly lit street where you can claim you're praying about it while circling the same block of avoidance. Confusion gives you a cover. No deadlines, no declarations, no accountability. It allows half commitments to masquerade as wisdom, when in reality, it's fear dressed as discernment. And sometimes, the enemy doesn't need to deceive you. He just needs to keep you undecided long enough to delay your destiny. Communication can camouflage cowardice. You talk about everything except the truth that would change everything. Words pile up like leaves in autumn, colorful but dead, hiding the rot underneath. Smooth talk and long text can mimic depth, but depth is measured in decisions, not dialogue. Some people don't use words to connect. They use them to conceal. And until you see that, you'll mistake articulation for alignment. I'll share this example in the context of a service client. We had a verbal communication in regards to terms on how we were going to deliver this service and the schedule and the payment structure. There was a representative or a project manager that was dedicated to our project. A few weeks into the project, I'm thinking it's going great. When the project manager sends a message that says, hey, we received an automatic charge on our account. We didn't want an automatic charge. We wanted an invoice. There was early over-communication in regards to a subscription model. In this instance, it was easily resolved by informing the client that we can cancel the auto pay and review the terms we agreed upon. What I discovered was the headquarters was not informed about the automatic payment, so they were taken by surprise. When I examined the chain of communication, what I discovered was that it was actually a disagreement between the project manager and HQ. They hadn't quite resolved the disagreement. So I felt that due to the fact that they couldn't resolve their disagreement, it fell upon me to resolve it for them. It wasn't necessarily a miscommunication. It wasn't even a misunderstanding. It was a misalignment. Matthew 7 verses 24 and 25 says, the wise man built his house on the rock. The rain fell and the floods came and the wind blew Yet it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. When you discover misalignment, you're no longer fixing clarity, you're revealing character. So here's what happens next. The moment you choose clarity, you'll discover who was only committed to comfort. That's when miscommunication becomes the cover story because truth threatens what's been tolerated. But that tension is holy. It's your signal that you've stepped out of emotional guessing games and into spiritual governance. Spiritual governance is when you stop letting emotions run your authority. It's when discernment replaces dopamine. You stop leading by what feels good and start leading by what's God ordained. It's not control, it's consecration, a decision to manage your inner world with the same integrity you hope to lead a household with one day. Because before God can trust you to govern a family, he has to see you govern yourself. And when you reach that level of spiritual order, peace stops being something you chase. It becomes the atmosphere you carry, the misses. Desperate times will label misalignment as miscommunication, so you can keep dabbling in what is subpar and cater to your creature comforts. You convince yourself that it's a clarity problem when God is revealing a character problem. This looks like giving second chances to what has already been exposed as your exit. Courage and self-awareness is required to identify the differences between these three notorious misses: miscommunication, misunderstanding, and misalignment. When you're in deep focus that she's your future misses, pause and confirm she's not one of these three misses. The three miss framework. The first miss, miscommunication. What it looks like, we didn't understand each other. What's actually happening, information gap. God's test teaches humility and patience. The second miss, misunderstanding. What it looks like, we heard the same thing differently. What's actually happening is a perception gap. God's test tests listening and empathy. The third miss, misalignment. What it looks like, we agreed, but it fell apart. What's actually happening is a value system gap. God's test exposes integrity and priorities. Once you hit level 3, misalignment, clarity is no longer the issue. It's conviction, because misalignment doesn't whisper, it echoes. You'll hear it in the silence after an argument, in the hesitation before an apology, in the uneasiness that lingers even after "we're good" is spoken. It's like standing in a house where the foundation is cracked. Everything looks stable until the first storm hits. God's mercy reveals misalignment before he reveals marriage to spare you from building something aesthetically beautiful on top of a sinkhole. Clarity doesn't destroy relationships. It exposes what was never sustainable. Misalignment always asks for one more chance, one more conversation, one more compromise. But every one more delays your obedience. And the longer you delay, the louder the damage becomes. So before you start calling her your future missus, ask yourself, do your values agree in the light or just in the moment? Because love built on convenience won't survive conviction. Conviction is where covenant begins. Simple tells. How do you identify misalignment? There are 4 simple tells. Before we go through them, remember this. Discernment doesn't roar. Oftentimes, it whispers. The Holy Spirit rarely shouts, "She's not it." He'll let you feel it. The subtle tightening in your chest when you ignore peace. The delayed response when your spirit already answered no. Misalignment often shows up as friction wrapped in familiarity. It looks right, it feels close, but something inside you knows it's off. And if you ignore that nudge now, You'll be negotiating with it later. Here are 4 simple tells to identify misalignment. 1. When clarity triggers discomfort. Truth didn't offend them. Exposure did. 2. When accountability feels like an attack. It's likely that they won't accept accountability until consequences appear. 3. When your time and value are not honored. That's not scheduling. That's a values issue. 4. When words say yes, but behavior says maybe. Alignment isn't verbal, it's behavioral. You can't build covenant with inconsistency. You build covenant with integrity. Begin discerning people by patterns, not promises. Picture 2 trains leaving the same station. One's heading north and the other south. They start side by side, same speed, same scenery. But give it time and those tracks will never meet again. That's what spiritual misalignment looks like. Identical beginnings, opposite destinations. You don't notice a separation at mile 1. You feel it at mile 100 when your lives are too far apart to reconcile. Covenant isn't proven in chemistry. It's proven in consistency of direction. Transactional versus relational. You can't force alignment where vision has already split, because the more time you spend trying to merge paths God designed to diverge, the more you delay the one He designed to join you. That's why this next part matters. It's not just about who you're dating, it's about how you're relating. Before, you thought better communication would fix everything. After, you realize that even perfect communication can't fix a misaligned conviction. God isn't asking for smoother talk. He's asking for steadfast truth. Transactional connections are get-focused, short-term, outcome-based, cyclical, and replaceable. Relational connections are give-focused, long-term, value-based, honor-centric, and alignment-minded. In dating, the distinction separates performance compatibility from purpose compatibility. Agreement is verbal. Alignment is spiritual. And the foundation is always a value system. Transactional sounds like you ask where things are headed and she says, let's just see where this goes. Months pass and nothing changes because she enjoys the access, not the accountability. You suggest praying together about direction, but she laughs it off, saying, I'll commit when I'm ready. What she's really saying is, I want the benefits of connection without the burden of covenant. She tells you she's not trying to label anything right now, yet expects the consistency of commitment. That's not partnership. That's spiritual freeloading. Relational sounds like when you talk about the future, she's not caught up in titles or timelines. She says something like, I'm building towards something real, something that still stands when feelings fade. She's thinking in decades, not date nights. When conflict comes up, she doesn't dodge it or guilt trip you. She says, I want to handle this the right way. How we talk about it matters to God. She's not trying to win. She's trying to work through it. She doesn't chase attention or play emotional chess. I'm not here to prove I'm worth it. She says, I just want to grow with someone who knows their purpose. She's not auditioning, she's aligning. A transactional mindset wants the experience of love without the endurance of it. It wants intimacy without investment, covenant without cost. But love that lasts can't be rented. It must be rooted. The difference between a spark and a flame is stewardship. And if the spark never meets structure, it burns out fast. That's why alignment isn't just romantic. It's prophetic. It's God training you to recognize what reflects His nature and to release what doesn't. Protection, not perfection. That's why alignment isn't romantic fluff. It's divine filtration. When you surrender what's misaligned, heaven doesn't take something from you. It protects something in you. You may lose people, but you gain peace, because peace is proof that God just closed a door you were too loyal to shut yourself. When you live in alignment, your peace becomes protection. You walk lighter because you're not carrying false arguments. Every misaligned connection that left your life wasn't rejection, it was protection. Hold that standard with joy. You're not being too difficult, you're being dependable. Psychology calls it cognitive dissonance. The stress your brain feels when your values and your actions don't agree. When you finally align them, your prefrontal cortex releases dopamine and serotonin, signaling safety. That's why obedience brings peace. Your mind was designed to rest when your values and your behavior match. Isaiah 26, verse 3 says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." Don't mistake good communication for godly alignment. Clarity can make you comfortable, but alignment will make you accountable. Imagine standing beneath a downpour with an umbrella God placed in your hand. Everyone else is sprinting for shelter, but you're calm, not because the storm stopped, but because you finally learned to walk under covering. Alignment is that umbrella. It doesn't end the storm. It protects your peace while you walk through it. That protection teaches discernment, because not every disagreement is disqualification. Sometimes God isn't asking you to walk away. He's asking you to weigh what's foundational versus what's superficial. Foundational or superficial? Alignment reveals value systems. Some people are content with transactional relationships, but covenantal relationships demand shared values. If you discover 80% alignment and 20% misalignment, ask, is the 20% superficial or foundational? If it's foundational, character is at stake. If it's superficial, grace can cover it. Foundational examples are a pattern of dishonesty, manipulation, or inconsistency, spiritual immaturity that resists accountability, habitual avoidance of repentance or self-correction. Superficial examples are style, hobbies, or personality differences, differences in communication rhythm or love languages, preferences in food, music, or weekend rhythm. Think of building a house. A crooked picture frame can be straightened. That's superficial. But a cracked foundation, that's structural. You can decorate a cracked wall, but every storm will remind you it's unstable. The same is true in relationships. God isn't asking for flawless walls. He's giving you unshakable footing. When we exercise courage to identify miscommunication, misunderstanding, and misalignment, we exercise steadfast conviction. We embody an unwavering biblical relational standard. In an era of people-pleasing religion, words are plenty but weightless. The truth, depth, and reality of your words reveal a standard that not only speaks to your values, but reveals to others a standard that's possible. You may have moved on, but the prayer is that they felt the standard, that your integrity sharpened iron or exposed imitation. And if they weren't iron, they'll feel the consequence of their own misaligned values. You don't just attract physically, you attract spiritually. You attract your standards. You attract your convictions. Beware when you entertain a mixture of compromise, sin, lying, manipulation, or self-deception. If you attract who you are, then every encounter is both a test and a testament of who you're becoming. And this is where the tension meets truth. Because once you've seen the difference between foundational and superficial, you can't unsee it. The question becomes, what will you do with what God revealed? That's where we move next, identifying the problem, the agitation, and the solution that turns awareness into wisdom. Your problem? You've been evaluating women based on chemistry, comfort, and conversation, not covenant compatibility. You confuse her emotional availability with spiritual alignment. She says all the right words, but lives none of them or few of them inconsistently. You ignore red flags because you've mistaken agreement for alignment and attention for affection. You've pursued peace through performance, not through posture, forgetting that clarity is the first test of character. Your agitation? You keep attracting women who say they want a godly man, but panic when leadership costs them convenience. You find yourself spiritually drained after every almost relationship, wondering if discernment is the problem when it's actually your discernment delay. The more time you spend with the wrong one, the less room there is for the right one, because misalignment always consumes margin. Your solution? Raise your standard from communicative clarity to covenantal alignment. She doesn't need to talk more. She needs to walk true. Start filtering relationships through value verification, not vibe validation. You can't covenant with charisma. Let clarity cost you convenience. God never exposes misalignment to embarrass you. He exposes it to protect your destiny. Prayerfully audit your last disagreement. Was it confusion or conflict in values? Be courageous enough to name it. The moment you do, you raise your standard and strong understanding of honor and value-based alignment. When you raise your standard, heaven adjusts who's sent your way. Watch this video next. Chivalry Comeback. Why tradwife culture is hot and holy. Or should I say, chivalry came back. It's not a throwback or nostalgia. It's a reformation of design and duty. The world calls it tradwife culture, but what they're really craving is original design, a rhythm of honor where men lead with love, protect with purpose, and provide with peace. Tune in every week for marriageable insights. I'm Rowena Rodriguez, your marriageability guide, because many are eligible, but few are marriageable. Until next time, be encouraged. You're not single by accident. Your singleness is not happening to you. It's happening for you.